Hello everyone, welcome to the Selfish Stream. It is March 17th, Wednesday, unless I am as out of it as I feel. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Welcome to the Wednesday Selfish Stream. It's a day. Alright. So, let's see, last time we were working on our main line. We were expanding it out to 5 tile stations, and we were also working on double tracking the entire thing, which we did successfully. We've completed the double tracking process. There are certain areas that are still a little bit funky. So now that I'm looking at this, actually, we'll probably want to clear that signal, for example, since all that's going to really do is get in the way of things. Oh, that's what I'm forgetting. The music. We also have sound effects now. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. We might be turning them off almost immediately because, as I recall, they were really annoying. Another change is for those watching on Twitch as opposed to the other platforms that I multicast to. You might see a new panel below the main stream, which should have my Twitter feed in it. It might not. It didn't seem to want to show up for me. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, that would be cool. Kind of help me to promote the stream a little bit. Get this to be less of a just me thing. Yeah, I'm not actually sure if that's working or not, or if it's going to become a thing that is working or not in the near future. But we'll see. So money-wise, we're in pretty great shape at the moment, actually. We can kind of do whatever, and we won't probably have too many issues. The big project at this point, big projects are to expand the Seymour terminal station. We want that to be twice as wide. We want it to come over to here. Let's conceal that so we can actually see what we're doing. So yeah, we want this 4 tiles wide instead of just the 2 tiles. We don't want to move or remove this gas station. That's actually going to be kind of important for us to keep. And then the other one is we need to fix the other terminal at the Mill Creek end, because this is just really kind of a sad little place of pity. So to do that, we will first put down, no, we don't want a medium speed depot, we want a universal depot. We'll place that here. Switch back to our medium speed tracks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that'll replace this depot over here. We can remove those tracks. I want to get this done before unpausing, just because it's going to be kind of a pain to perform surgery on all of this while it's still connected. No, we do need to keep that there. We want to remove the road, not the track. And I think what we're probably going to want to do is to just scoot all of this over to this point. Past, this tile here, I think. That should just about get us where we need to be. Yeah, that should be sufficient. So this is still going to need an escape route, so we're not going to completely destroy this just yet. This bridge is going to be a problem, so that needs to go. We'll connect that so that the train can escape. But ultimately, what's going to need to happen is we need 4 tracks that are all connected up together, but only on the one end. So it'll have to connect that way. Like that. I think that's going to be correct. And at long last, we actually have a good use for our lifted track, because we're going to clear off everything from that point backwards. But only once that train leaves. And we'll stop this guy, and then unfreeze time. So he's frozen on the way into that station, which is where we want him. Now as soon as this leaves, then we can start actually placing the stations down. Road vehicle 93 is lost. That does not seem possible because it's driving through Twitchton, which is on a grid system. Alright, so that train has departed. Now, we can use some lifted track and convert all of that to lifted track, which now we get this lovely little spot where you can see where the track was. You can still see the ballast. And in some cases, like these tiles, you can still see custom graphics wherever they apply, which I truthfully just think is lovely looking. Good, more lost road vehicles. My favorite. Let's see, we gotta clear that signal. Oops, that's universal, that's not medium. That signal, that signal, confuse this train here terribly. And now we need some platforms. We need 5 tiles and buffer stops. Dutch Edition has nice buffer stops, so we might use those. So there's our 4 buffer stops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that's actually not quite room for the signals that we need. Ooh. So that may be an issue. Grindavik Reefer, Alco RSC3. I don't care about either of those right now, but we might want to use them later. Oh, that is a lot of buffer stops. Actually sort of tempted to use some of those, but I don't know what any of them really do. so we'll leave it for now, I suppose. Just figuring out what we've got on our hands here. I have no idea what we have on our hands here. I don't know what any of this stuff is or how it's meant to work. 2x7 for elevated tracks. 4x7. I mean, that's just colossal. Let's look at island platforms. Do we have anything normal here? Wait, I'm an idiot. Oh no. I'm supposed to actually put the station there. We're supposed to do it a little bit of a different way. Are there any of these that are wide enough? Clearly not. Alright. So we need this to be Mill Creek Woods. Oops, wrong button. Mill Creek Woods. Not right now. Island platforms. I'll probably just do double islands like this. Changed my mind about some of the placements. There we go. Now we'll use different buffer stops because I've changed what these actually look like. And then the other side is what, this? Nope. That one. And that actually looks quite nice. Perhaps I should use an overpass instead. I think that look nicer with one-sided, one-sided ones. Normal platforms. Footbridge, no. Island platforms. Where's the one with the overpass? Footbridge. Footbridge. I talk so good. That doesn't look right at all. How does this work? I don't know how to use the Dutch edition very well, if this wasn't profoundly obvious already. Where's the blue one? Whoa. Whoa, no. Whoa, no. I don't get how these work. And the entire train line is, of course, backing up as we speak. So that's great. I do wish I understood these a little bit better, how these stations are meant to set up. They've clearly got very particular ways about them. Yeah, you know what, we'll just have pedestrian crossings. No. No, that's not right either. Can you guys tell I have no idea what I'm doing? Oh no. Oh no. You know what, we're just gonna put down shelters. That'll be fine. Okay, that's good enough. We do still need to signal everything. We actually need to back it off. So we'll pause the train behind it and let this guy leave. But not before we put the signals in place. Yeah, we have to change this. No. Oh, that's unfortunate placement. Bomb a building. I don't like the way this is shaping up. I guess we'll have it cross over after that last signal. So now we can run these signals to here. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's not really going to be particularly nice. Oh well, nothing to do for it. It's too close to not have it any other way. Alright. And now, at least in theory, everything should flow smoothly, and we have a significant amount more throughput at this station. Stuff can come in, stuff can come out. Shouldn't interfere too badly with each other. Platforms fill up nicely, that's good. Wait, just happened. Did one of these guys? Uh-oh. Wait, crap. Oh, is this considered in front of it? That's not okay. No, stop, all of you stop. Oh crap. Yeah, no wonder that wasn't working. Okay, hopefully that gets fixed. Just fast forward that real quick, get everything out. Welcome, first viewer of the night. Made a mistake, everyone. I made a dumb mistake. Lots of traffic through here, which is good. It's not the most amazingly efficient station ever, but it seems to be getting the job done pretty well. Lisa Franks, being relatively short trains, seem to be handling the short signal distance here pretty decently. And why is this all clogged up? Yeah, I mean, it should sort of unstick itself. This is a bad signal placement right here. It does literally nothing, I think. Yeah, that should be okay now, I think. Trees. Loads of trees. We can just build basically just a longer version of this and then a replica of it next door. But we do need to change around our streetcars a little bit. Passenger station facing this way, 2 tiles of it. Hereford Regal box truck. I mean, I like the idea. Okay, so they shouldn't have any reason to come along there anymore. So that part's good. We can bomb that a little bit. And now we can start building a new station platform. Although we do need to landscape just a tiny little bit. That should be good. We also will need to stop trains coming in here because as of this moment they're very much in the way. Let's catch the next one on its way in and block up the track. Zoom. Alright, now in this particular case we have a little bit more space to play around with, just by virtue of the way that the station is put together. So what we can do is flatten out some of this business, which now gives us, so these are 4, 5, 6 long, plus 1 tile for our, what am I even saying? 1 tile here for the signal. I think I just blew up a bunch of trees. And 1 tile at the back for buffer stops, which we'll add in a moment. Okay, beg pardon for the momentary delay there. Let's not wipe out any signals just yet. So that's how I prefer to have it, and then we can have another crossover up here, but this is going to make it a little bit ugly. So, you know what, if we forgo the buffer stops, which is a terrible shame. And we can do something like this. Look at that ridiculously overhyped music. Gotta love it. Okay. So there is now a way in and out of the station. I don't want to signal that close to the junction, so we'll actually... Well, this train will get out of our way, now that it can. And we'll clear that signal. So right now they're only using those two platforms on the far left, because, of course, right now that's the only two platforms that exist. But what we'll be doing here is creating some island platforms, which, if I can figure out which thing I used for this, curved roofs with building. I believe that's what it was, yes. There we go. And there's our elongated station. And our very intense music, of course. Now let's see how the traffic handles. And actually looks pretty good so far. Certainly not a perfect little intersection there, but it is a long way from problematic as well. Alright, let's check our finances a little bit, because it looks like we might have some unprofitable vehicles floating around. And also, for some reason, there's a bunch of vehicle replacements that are still waiting. Oh. It's probably cars, yeah. There's loads of these that are still waiting. Just a little bit of busy work. Okay, now that should stop complaining. So the bauxite trains are still unprofitable, but they're in what I would consider a pretty acceptable range now that they've got the new locomotives on them and the production is up so far. The cow catchers are in a terrible situation, but I'm not sure why. Or more accurately, I know exactly why, but I don't really know what can be done about it. The chemical supply trains are doing surprisingly okay. And let's finally deploy this beauty onto the rails. See how she performs. Sit back and watch. Closest I could get to a particular real locomotive, whom I have met, I'm proud to say. And she just barely fits into that station because she's huge. But that's honestly pretty accurate to reality. Just gonna do that so that message isn't in front of the window. Oh crap, Addison's station is still very small. Whoopsie. Missed one. Just stop the trains on their way in. Let this guy leave. And somewhere down here we have these nice little pre-builds. We'll have 2x5. And okay, unfortunately this is going to take just a really, really long time because it's so much bigger than the station. Alright, come on. Come on. Come on. Oh my gosh, come on. Okay, bye. So we gotta, first we gotta clear out the signals that no longer work or no longer apply. What's that signal doing over here? That's a weird, or that one. It's weird. I wonder why I did that. I probably wasn't thinking. Nice. No room for signals on that side. And that one's also already too close. Okay. So this guy can restart, and so can this guy. Meanwhile, let's catch up with our lovely little exhibition train that we've got out here, floating around the place. Oh, you had to park on the far side, didn't you? So it got its transfer credit for dumping off some passengers. And of course I can't leave until these guys get out of the way. And of course some of this is probably some residual placement issues from before. If there's a way to follow in the main viewport. Ah, there we go. That didn't quite work. There we go. Alright. So watch our brand spanking new historical reenactment train over here. Doing its thing. And a lot of the trains are probably going to complain about not being able to find paths because of all the changes we've just been making. They're still catching up to the traffic jams. So 32,000 for just that transfer. It looks like it's probably going to be pretty profitable. And stay that way in perpetuity. From the looks. so that's a good sign. By the way, whoever's whoever's watching, feel free to speak up. Don't be shy. I feel like I should be talking to you, but instead I'm talking to myself because I don't know who you are. Hello, either way. Alrighty. Just made one cross-continent trip. And probably most of the passengers it was carrying were headed for this end. Nice. Its total capacities: 480 passengers, 120 bags of mail. That's nothing to sneeze at. She's big. 5 tiles long. What are we looking at here? We're looking at profits so far this year alone. It ran for a little while. The reason that the lifetime profit is lower is that it ran for a little while, but wasn't able to actually fit into the station. So it has that number is distorted slightly from its actual service. But yeah, either way, looks like we've got 110,268 so far. Although we're actually watching that number change because of inflation. Oh boy. Right, unloading a crap load of people. And loading up a crap load of mail. Nice. Nice. Let's see about those sound effects. See if it decides to actually work. Yeah, OpenSFX is enabled. I wonder why I'm not hearing anything. Huh. It's a little weird. Okay, well, I think we've pretty much seen everything that we need to see with that. We'll I'm sure, see her floating around now and then, as she happens to appear. It's really a shame that so many of these areas are just really tightly crammed. Oh yes, these guys needed a passing track, didn't they? That bridge is in the way of doing it here. So I'm thinking... we'll just wipe out a little bit of this area on this side of the bridge. That and that and that all go. We'll also clear this once that train clears it. Oh, I just turned back. There's a bus coming through there. Why is there a bus coming through there? No one should have needed... None of the services that come through here should have needed to come up this way. It's very weird. Okay, so we'll signal that. Can't see what I'm doing. That should be fine. Yeah, so they can pass each other now. Oh, tell me I didn't signal the bridge. What is that? Oh, that signal is sticking up through the bridge from underneath. Okay, sure. I'm just gonna pretend that makes any kind of sense for now. That's fine. Let's see, where do we want the other passing track section? That corner is just gonna be better if it's like that. Kind of feeling this. I'm not sure sure if that's a great idea or not. We might want to clear out those tiles. And then make another passing track here. That way, even if they get kind of bumped into each other in awkward positions, it won't be too terrible. Alright. Alright, so those look good for now. Our changes are probably going to have to be pretty extensive if we end up double tracking this piece here. Just because, like, it's already a bit on the cramped side. But I don't think that'll be too bad. We really need a better way to handle these guys. And we are keeping up with this, right? 357 tons per month. That's pretty sweet. Tim Allen is unprofitable. Cowcatcher 2 is unprofitable. Some of the road vehicles are unprofitable. This is not a surprise. I'm mostly worried if any of the trains are unprofitable besides Jimothy, Jamothy, and Jumothy. Welcome, new viewer. Glad to have you. Well, that's a funky looking scaffold. So it looks like, yeah, this is keeping the production up, which is excellent. I'm actually a little surprised we have enough coming in for that to work. PCC streetcar with trailer, 50 miles an hour, 122 passengers. Yeah, don't mind if I do. In fact, let's start a master place on those, because that sounds good. PCC streetcars. We want these new guys. So these have more power, they're heavier and more expensive to run, they have more than double the capacity, same lifespan, decent reliability, good tractive effort, which will make them better in the larger city areas that we've got them deployed in. So yeah, let's replace them all. We've got the money to do it. I think it might actually be doubling their size. I'm not sure if I'm correctly understanding how that works, but if I'm right, it's going to look kind of crazy. Let's close that for now. I'm kind of curious to watch some of these getting replaced. There they go. There they go. That's one of the trucks. Oh, this is their depot up here. Well, and don't mind that crackling noise. I apologize if that's super annoying. So wait, are you one of the ones with the trailers? Yeah. Okay, so it's not, it looks like it's a functional change, not a cosmetic change. Okay. Well, it's a little bit of a shame, but that's not entirely unexpected. Okay. So this always has vehicles waiting, which is good for the station ratings, which is, yeah, now very good. On that note, actually, let's start messing around with the local authorities here. Let's build some statues. Because, so we just actually checked this just a second ago, the same station. So if we go to ratings, it is now 10% higher, I believe. Let's see, Addison. I don't think this is going to matter too much, but we'll just make sure. Company owner, yay. So these are basically a permanent investment. They're going to improve the conversion ratio for all of our stations in the catchment area of each, or in the zoning areas for each of these cities. And I've already done one of these somewhere. I think it was in McLean. Looks like it was in McLean. So the reason that we're investing in this is because the station rating determines how much cargo is transported to your stations of the available amount. And if we max out our station ratings, then we will get all of the available cargo for that area. This is a little bit cheaty, so I'm going to change it. We don't want an FM train master, but I appreciate the offer. Mill Creek Woods. Mill Creek Woods. Mill Creek Woods. So what that's going to do, the reason that we're setting it up that way is so that the streetcars will have a bunch of different places that they can get in and out of each of these station tiles. And what that will let them do is when they are approaching this particular station, and of course we'll do this just for redundancy, when they're approaching this station, they can come up either of these two tracks and just go on whichever path is more convenient, and then turn towards any of these that are open. So that'll actually keep it from getting as clogged up as this arrangement over here. British Rail Class 416/12 EPB. I mean, that seems cool, but I'm really confused as to what it's doing in this GRF pack, which is supposed to all be American vehicles. So, yeah, I don't know what that's all about. I'm not going to complain necessarily, but I am baffled. So they're all going to be horribly confused for a second, I think. Old Town Hall is going to serve this, although I think Mill Creek Woods is still technically involved in that since these station tiles are still here. I'm going to do the same thing for Old Town Hall here. Because that's a fairly heavily used station. We're going to move the other stations around a little bit. We're going to give them a little bit more distance. So one of them is going to live clear over here. And that's going to be Mill Creek Central. A horrible misnomer, of course, but we don't really mind about that. The city loves its road construction. Also, whoa, okay. I thought they might path more intelligently than this, but I guess not. Okay, at least a couple of them worked out that they could do this. That's good. It's better than I feared. Alright. I would like to run some track through there, but city's not really working with me at the moment. Because of course they're not. That would be silly if they wanted me to improve the service that I'm offering to their town. That would just be dumb. Come on. Oh wait, crap. No, these can't be here. Oh boy. These actually need to be freight stops, I think. Gronk. British Rail Class 08, Gronk. I don't know what a Gronk is. I am still confused as to what GRF it came from, because I am pretty sure I didn't install anything with British equipment, but, I mean, I guess it's not a bad thing. We'll get out of there. Oh, freight station. Come on now, get out of the way. Get out of the way, go. Okay, thank you. Now all of the stuff from that station should have migrated over here. 24 passengers. I am not sure it did. Maybe it did. It probably did. I think it's fine. Yeah, this should be alright. Road construction, we're going to delete this tile here, because that's what was preventing us from putting down the streetcar station that we wanted on this spot. So now they can all go forward to the end and all lock themselves up properly now. So that's good. That's all sorted out. I don't know if we want to move any of these other ones. I think the other ones are okay where they are. Hereford Bullwith Mail Trailer. I think I'm happy with where this is sitting right now, so we can leave that. The realism aspect of this is all fixed, but this is still definitely cheating. So I'll have to make a decision about that later. Train, 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 train. I mean, you're not wrong. Let's see, is there a way to get this to connect to the other road? Well, it seemed like it was when it was adjacent to something else. I don't know, it doesn't seem to be behaving the same way. So if you're just joining us, basically what we've done today is sent in all of these for replacements for a larger model so they can be more efficient. We fixed this station, we fixed the other terminal up here, so this now looks real funky. But that's alright, it's more functional, and also I got to use these lifted tracks that I've been literally waiting the entire game to use. We don't need that anymore, so the city can have that back. There's an industry over here that I was really concerned about earlier, and I can't remember which one it was. So this here needs metal and chemicals, produces building materials. I don't really necessarily care a ton about that right now. This just accepts building materials, which, I mean, you know, we could always do that, but it wouldn't produce much money. This guy just accepts goods and building materials. It's a hardware store. Let's see if there are any more like civic industries that have cropped up around here. We've still got these. These are still doing absolutely nothing. The quarries. They need engineering supplies. They produce sand and stone. Which I wonder if we can turn either of those into something useful to our current resource loop. Sand goes to the ironworks, the glassworks, and the brickworks. I like the idea of bringing it to the ironworks, which also takes iron ore and wood, but we don't have anything to do with that anywhere near us right now. The glassworks also needs chemicals, which we are producing. Let's see, link that to the mini-map. Well, we'll link this to the mini-map. I actually have to shrink this because I can't read the labels past this nonsense. So the quarries, there are a fair few of them scattered around. There's a whole 10 on the map. Neither of the ironworks are really within reach at the moment. There's a bunch of glassworks. None of them are particularly close either. Dredging sites also produce sand. Brickworks. Denver, Bunker Hill, Preston, Manchester, Pocahontas, Empire, and that's all. Okay, so we can't really use that. That sucks. Quarry also produces stone, which goes to a lime kiln or a cement plant. And it is also produced by dredging sites. So we could actually, if we wanted to make that kind of our biggest industry, we could put down a train station that gathers it up, and then have like a dedicated line for that, but then also use boats to get these dredging sites involved. In that case, we would want to deliver to a cement plant, which, yeah, that's kind of all over. Or a lime kiln, which are also plentiful but very scattered. Well, of those options, it looks like the cement plant that's between Farmingdale and Cleveland is probably our best bet. This guy right here. And these produce what? They take coal, clay, stone, and produce building materials. Which isn't, I mean, that's nothing amazing. The upshot is that there's an iron ore mine next to it, which we could then use. I'm torn on whether that's even worth it. Well, we can get the engineering supplies down here pretty easily from the look of things. Like, I don't think it'll be too difficult to do that. And then getting the iron ore, get that to an ironworks or a steel mill, but we want the ironworks because it also takes sand. Let's see about this. Where would this go? And steel mills. Oh, geez, yeah, that's nowhere near where we're operating right now. The ironworks, however, Bridgewater and Highland Park. I mean, I'm not loving how dependent all of this makes us on boats. I wonder how expensive it would be to put up a rail bridge here. rails, bridges. I mean, that's a long way. 23 tiles. I mean, so that is an option. We definitely want to build 2 bridges, because otherwise that's just a really... that distance is just far too long. What if we were to replace these boats? I mean, okay, so let me show you what we've got when we have our boats. We have this boat that runs into the ground. My auto captions. You know, that does not shock me. The auto captions are an adventure. So we've got Let here, which consistently runs into the dock before parking at the dock it's actually supposed to go to. And it consistently runs nearly empty. So every single time that it goes anywhere, yes, Let is lost. Let is literally always lost. Lisa Frank 5 can't find a path to continue, but is continuing with no issues nonetheless. Yeah, there's literally no problem here. I don't know why you're complaining. The name of someone, if only someone. Oh! Oh, that's not okay. I definitely did not say that. I said nothing about women's intimates. Yeah, I am saying it's wrong. It's very, very wrong. It is the wrongest. So let's see. The biggest problem that we have with the boats is that they are just colossally inefficient for what we're using them for. They never have enough cargo to fill up. Why? Where is this coming from? Okay, so this one is finally outpaced. Steve. Steve needs... No, it's not even Steve. What? No, this guy? Ship 5? Freight barge carrying metal? No. It's this one. Ship 4. You need a buddy, which means you need a name. Name, please. Okay, so Cinnabon and the other unnamed one that's hauling metal gets to be Bodie McBoatface. Okay. Now Cinnabon needs to be duplicated. No, that's not true. Cinnabon doesn't need to be duplicated. Cinnabon just needs help. So what we're going to do is we're going to take something that can carry... let's give it... check the cargo capacities for bauxite. So we've got these ginormous things that carry like 1,000, 2,500 or 1,500 tons or whatever it is. Those are probably too much. I'm kind of liking the idea of this Frisco Bay because it's going to take a quarter of this each load. And it's going to follow the orders of that. But it also needs a name. No names? Boxer. Yeah. That's good. Boxer. Boxer is ship 7. Ship 7 gets the name Boxer. Also, I see that we have a third guest on our stream tonight. Welcome, welcome. Feel free to speak up and join in the conversation. We're all friendly here. Is it even going? It's not going. Go! Boxer. Is that bigger than the dock? Yeah, you know what? Don't question it. Don't question it. The ship is bigger than the building that it was built inside of and was completely concealed within. Don't question it. It's fine. McSnuffins. Alright, we're keeping up with the chemical load, no problem. This will have this thing cleared out in 5 trips, depending on how much new material turns up. Lisa Frank 8 is stuck. So let's find out if that's actually stuck or just, like, doesn't want to wait. So this Addison station appears to actually kind of be a problem. Are these guys timetabled? Jeff Bridges. Timetable, automate auto separation. So, what the heck? Like, well, I mean, I can sort of name bridges. I can't directly name bridges, but I can put signposts over them. So, the eventual plan is to actually run a rail line clear across here. That's going to be costly, and I'm not exactly sure how I want it yet, but I'm actually going to, you know what I'm going to do is build it now so that I can, like, make, and surname bridges. I don't understand what that means. Oh, the auto captions, right. This is really ugly, this thing that I'm making. Science corner. I could do a science corner. I'm not going to. But I could, I assume. Only some may think of tentative signs. I thought I was science corner, not poetry. Also, I've got something trying to pop up from Steam, but it's just kind of not happening. Oh, it's a self-updater window that wasn't loading properly. Well, that was silly. Alright, well, let's do some far too long bridges. cantilever steel, and it's hidden. Oh, that is ugly. Now there are two uglies. Oh boy. So this entire track section is going to be pretty much completely unused. But, like, we'll pretend. We'll pretend it's good for anything right now. Because we are going to be paying out just a butt ton of money for that bridge to continue existing. Alco S5, Shovel Nose, SW 1200. I don't care about any of that. Bridges. How far would that have to go? Oh my gosh, 42 tiles. Oh, this is such a bad idea. I mean, I am super into long rail bridges. I love that concept. I think that's great. I do actually specifically want to try and make more use of boats than I normally would. But, like, I just don't think it's gonna happen. More correctly, I don't think it should happen. And also, that is way too many new vehicles. Oh my gosh. Let's just signal this real quick. It's completely the wrong place for that. Yeah, that's fine. That'll be fine. It's fine. It'll be fine. Too many bagels? No, I was saying that I need to re-signal this junction because it's a mess. And if I don't, then I'm going to forget to do it later, and then we're going to have train wrecks, and that's not good. Also, that's an odd thing happening there. I don't like it. I don't like the signals in the water. I do not like them. Sam, I am. Also, I think somewhere around 1970, Bodie McBoatface is unprofitable. Oh no! It's hardly accomplishing anything, but that's fine. We'll pretend. Okay, so we're actually. We're actually in a pretty good position to just not have those boats there. Which is itself sort of a shame, actually. This is producing quite a bit of metal. Athens. This belongs to Athens, and we need to carry more of that, which means that we need to build a statue. Athens docks. Ratings. Very good. Very good. Decent service on the bauxite here, but that doesn't matter because I'm running that entirely. Where are you going, buddy? Why did... Well, that's not supposed to happen. Where are you going? Where are you going, friend? What the heck just happened? Where, that can't happen. we're just gonna not have that happen anymore. Yeah, I just ran into a one-way signal and had to stop. Yeah, that's not right. Why did it go that direction? I'm so confused. There's nothing here that would make that happen. Oh crap, no, there is. This isn't a one-way track. Just a matter of time till that happened. Right. I made a bit of an oopsie. Okay, bye. Alright, so we should probably set up boats to actually, like, use the boat things. Where do we get fruit from? Where are we going to get fruit? Fruit, we need to get the industry thing. Where's the industry thing? Industry chains. We need to find cargo fruit. Link to minimap, and we'll stick that down there so we can get to it more easily, and then switch over to said minimap, and then you can just go the freak away. Grocery stores accept them, ports accept them, breweries accept them, but fruit plantations are the only place they are made. So, there's a lot of fruit plantations, but they're all sort of concentrated in weird areas. So, that area here by far is the most accessible. So we'd want boats to just come straight up here and drop them off. Just kind of do a back and forth, and then we need some kind of service, probably road, to collect it all up and feed into that. We could do the same thing up here, like maybe have... I mean, that's a long distance, though. I'm kind of feeling like we need a cargo distribution hub of some kind somewhere. I'm not sure where exactly would make sense to do this, but basically just have all of the services in a particular area, bring cargo to a specific place, just a giant station. Have trains running in and out of it all over the place, have it by the coast so we can get boats to it easily enough, and kind of have one of those on every continent, or maybe a couple of them on the bigger continents. So like up here we'd have probably like one down here, one over here, one up here, one over here maybe, and then have like large train main lines running between them, carrying everything that needs to come through. That seems like it makes the most sense as far as kind of connecting everything up in the long term. This island just is what it is. Like, I don't think we're ever going to get this any less tangled than it is right now. Someplace we might even want to like run a passenger ferry to literally anywhere else, like a cruise ship or something. But we need to get the train line dropping people off at the shore, which wouldn't be hard or anything, but it would require like a dedicated service. So yeah, getting fruit. The only thing that we'd really want to do is just get fruit from here for right now. So let's I don't even know where to put this thing. That'll be fine, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna remember that that's there, you guys. Okay, this is what, a junkyard, which produces scrap metal, which we can take to Where is it from here? Oh, that's not so bad. We can get the scrap metal over here, probably just by car. Alright. What is this? This is another metal fabrication plant. We're not going to service that one because right now we want everything centralized in Twitchton. Although that may change sometime. So, alright, time for regular roads. We want a road that runs... where do we even want it? We want it to run along there. We want another road that runs... oh boy, where? Probably here. That'll let us place stations on either end, I think. Little freight cargo things. No? Whoa, wrong button. And the reason that we're keeping one tile away is to make sure that there's room for the truck stops that we'll need in order to serve all of these industries properly. And in fact, this one should probably be brought one tile closer up here. And the music is terrifically glitchy right now. Which, now that I think of it, might be the fault of my desktop background, even though that sounds sort of insane. Again with this? Same thing happened yesterday. I apologize, it's probably looking kinda crappy on your end. Okay. I don't think there's anything much we can do about that at the moment. So yeah, the visuals are still probably going to be a little bit janky like this, pretty much no matter what I do at the moment. Which definitely sucks a little bit. So I do apologize for that. Alright, so that's all connected up. We need a dock. I guess only wants to live there. And we want truck stations, truck stops. 1, 2, 3, 4. I highly doubt we will ever need this many, but we'll pretend. What do you mean flat land required? That land is flat. Wait, why have these all turned into different stations? Surely they're close enough that they should have guessed. Franklin Woods. Franklin Woods. Franklin Woods. Welcome, third viewer. Welcome, welcome. I apologize for the stream's performance tonight. It's a little bit off. And unfortunately, at the moment, there isn't anything that I can do to correct that. It just kind of is. Alright, and we need some road depots. We'll have them and placed semi-regularly along the path, making sure to be close to the industries that we're serving. Okay, so that should just about make that happy. We still need the truck stops on this end connected to the docks. Which I think will mostly be drop-off, but I want to make sure that it's okay if we have pickup services here as well. Okay, and those roads did connect, I wasn't sure for a second. Right, now, new vehicles. No, we don't want to do it from that end, we want to do it from the other end. New vehicles. And we want something that can carry loads of fruit. Okay, so it's probably this refrigerator truck here, 40 miles an hour. We want to make sure that the maximum speed is high as well. So it's pretty much going to be that. What's the difference between these? 10 tons, wow. This one's newer, so what's the difference? Literally nothing about it is better. It's lighter weight. Yeah, okay, I don't really get why it's like that. Vehicle can't go to that station. Why? Why? What? Why not? Things all linked up, right? Right. Yeah, it's all connected. So go to here. An aerotrain. The real aerotrains were super goofy looking. And a giant like propeller on the front. I'm confused. Why can't you go there? What even are you? Are you trailer? Oh, okay, I'm confused. I don't understand why this isn't working the way that it should. Go to here. Can't go to that station. But why? Why not? Does it have to be a through station? Go to the through station. Oh no. They're articulated vehicles and they can't go to the non-through stations. Well, that sucks. Right. That's going to create some serious traffic jams. Is there a way to not have that problem? We can... Oof. Okay, hold on. Let's see. If we wipe out all of these, then place through stations that go... Whoops. That go this way, then they should be able to park there. The same as normal. And then turn around in the station. I am very confused. I think it's just because these are articulated vehicles. I'm not entirely sure. Because the vanilla stations don't really like those super well. Okay, bulldoze all of those. Place these. Oh my goodness. Flat land required. Okay, well, let's just make us some flat land. kind of being a pain to me tonight. Alright, that means we need to do the same thing down here. I do like these little covered buildings. It's a shame we have to get rid of them. Oh man. Is the stream quality as bad for you guys as it seems for me? Because if you're doing okay, then I'll bear with it, but if it's as bad for you as it is for me, then we'll definitely want to fix some things. Let's see, that's 9. We want 10 of them? Yeah, let's try 10 and see if they actually work. See if they fill out those spots properly. We will have farm supplies coming back in here later, but right now I don't think we have that option. Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's weird. They're articulated vehicles, but they're super stumpy. That doesn't seem how it's supposed to look. Oh, they're strange. Oh, they're real strange. Okay, so they do all fit where they're currently sitting, which is good. Oh, excuse me. No, you should not have that order. You should have float any. And these shouldn't have inherited that change. Okay, good. They did not. Oh wow, we're down quite a bit of money. What happened there? Running costs were offset. Oh, it's other? What do you mean other? So construction and other. Tell you what, that's a little concerning. What is other? Other expenses. What did I actually do during that time? Company value went way down. Why did that happen? I mean, it's recovering just fine. I don't think we're in any serious problem. That's weird. Virginian ELC. It asks me all these dumb questions like, do I want this new vehicle? Of course I want the new vehicle. Crazy? Why would I not want the new vehicle? The problem is that I can't really so much use the new vehicle. How much is this producing? 60 tons. Oh gosh, that should have been our biggest stop. Alright. Full load. So these are going to be massively unprofitable on an individual basis. But hopefully, we won't have any problems with that because they are not individually needed to be profitable. Oh. Empty. Where are you going, friend? Why have you wandered off? Oh, they're janky little articulated parts. Oh, they're weird. I don't like them. They're gross. What am I even making here? Fruit. Maybe something carries something very, very fast. Cargo capacity for fruit. And we'll switch that over to maximum speed. This, wow, that's really a lot slower than I would have expected. Yeesh. The highest maximum speed that carries fruit. Yeah, 28 miles an hour seems really sort of inadequate. Is that just me? This boat gets to inherit the name McSnuffins because we didn't use that earlier. And it should be going to here and then going to, I'm sure that it can't actually do that just yet. Oops, we need an actual dock up there. Might have forgotten that part. And then go to here. Too far from what do you mean too far? Something from there to there? Come on now. Oh, not even. It's from here to here. That is not that far. Do we need buoys? Will buoys make it able to do this? Too far. What the heck? How can you have a distance limit? It's a boat. Can the Grindavik Reefer or the Santorini Freighter get there? From here to here. Please, maybe. Too far from previous destination. What the heck? This is not supposed to be a thing. Just delete all of them. What? How does this work? I don't get how this is supposed to work. Fumulate paddle steamer. Oh, the lag. Oh, the lag is bad. Go to here. Go to here. Okay, what the heck? Do you have to be told to go to a buoy in the middle? Okay, it does have to be told specifically to go to a buoy. Okay then. Alright, in that case, let's go back to our original plan of the Castle Point steamer, because... yeah, just take that guy's orders, he will get deleted. And then you will get cloned like 4 times. Maybe 1 more. So we do want the fruit to get there relatively quickly. And I think that means we can actually ditch most of the buoys that we put down because they're not actually doing anything, even though I thought they were. So that's neat. Boink, 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 boink. Athens buoy number 3 is important, none of the rest are. really thought that I was helping them navigate better. No wonder they keep getting lost. Here for double-decker... ductal buctal double-decker. That was some words in my face. Alright. Here they go. To pick up the fruit that may or may not actually exist here. What is going on right now with this? Do they not go all the way into the station anymore? Why are they like this? I don't get what's happening here. Franklin is the other town that we need to cozy up to. So local authority, buy a statue, and that should improve the transfer rate of fruit to our stations, which in turn should at least improve the production a little. Maybe not much, probably not much, but it's something. Wait a minute. I've just realized the problem. The problem is, I'm an idiot. That is the issue that we are having. The issue is that I am a dumb. No loading. So, for clarity, what was happening there is that all of the trucks are filling up with fruit just like they're supposed to, which is exactly what we want. And then they are taking the fruit down to the docks, which is exactly what we want. And then they are doing nothing. They are taking no action once they have delivered their cargo. The encoder, it suffers. So this is starting to fill up with fruit now that I've corrected that idiocy. And these will be from there to any station until the boats start working correctly and actually, like, getting where they're going. You can just turn right the frick around and grab our first actual load. Let is lost. Oh my gosh. Let is lost. I'm going to lose my mind. You know what we probably want to do actually is also truck the scrap metal from here down. That seems like a thing that makes sense to do to me. You know what also makes sense as a thing to do is to run a road that does this. So that when they come into these stops, they can then pull out a certain direction. We will also make this that's the wrong way. There we go. So now they will always go that way and fill into whatever station is available, and then they will turn around. And you are doing exactly what the frick? 198 tons of fruit. Okay. Alright, so that's in business now. That's good. That's doing what it's supposed to, finally. The big problem, of course, is that they are so slow. So very slow. And they're just now arriving at the other end. Boats, man. Boats are the worst. With our giant rail bridge, I'm pretty sure we can actually do this without the boats at all, but I don't want to because that would be bad, and we don't have the rail capacity right now. The line just isn't broad enough. Yeah, so we are actually dropping some frames here. Oh, that's unfortunate. I do apologize. The performance is not at all very good. It should correct itself in about 20 minutes, I think, before that background task completes. Right. So just a brief update for those interested. On the topic of Avara, unfortunately it looks like my main computer cannot play it, most likely. I'm working with the devs. But at least right now it's not looking like it's going to be likely. So we might just kind of not have that ability for a bit. If that changes, I will 100% be all over that. But we'll see. We'll have to play it by ear. Yeah, that's expensive. I really wonder what that other category is, because that's costing me $2 million a year, or $2 million total, I should say. That's more accurate. Oh, the lag is killing me. Alright, let's start trucking that scrap metal out of here so that we can improve metal production. And will you stop suggesting British rail vehicles? I sincerely hope to someday actually use all of these platforms. I doubt that I ever will, but we'll try. We'll give it a serious go. Now, what carries cargo capacity? What carries the most? Scrap metal. These flatbed trucks. 39 tons at 35 miles an hour. Acceptable. Now, do we want to run a road up to the aluminum mill? Or do we want instead to use boats? I'm kind of feeling a road because these boats are way slow. Yeah, that's... Go there. Go there. There isn't a stop there, so it can't just yet. But we'll build the same contraption over here as we did on the other side. We'll go 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 should be satisfactory, I think. And then run the road along. free. We'll run it back along this way. We'll give it some extra distance in case we ever need to improve the size of this station. We'll add a one-way one-way road, maybe. And then we will connect it all the way up the other side. Let's actually, let's give it a nice little seaside vibe. Keep it a little ways away from the coast, but not far. And if this lag ever stops, then we'll be able to see how lovely it is. Where do we want it to connect from? We'll probably do it here so that it's all down on that flat line and there's only the one hill. We'll put it there. And that leaves us with space for a bridge. Nice short little thing here. Doesn't need to be anything too terribly quick. These are very slow, so we'll do girder steel, just that nice little blue bridge. And that's connected automatically, which is good. So now we can fix the orders on this guy. He'll come down to the other docks by road, because we're silly here, basically. Alright. And on this end, we will full load. On that end, we shouldn't need to fuss with anything. And we will keep this service timetabled, even though it's not really necessary. We'll have a good 20 trucks on that route. Hopefully, this will not be a big problem to have this many of these cars. We'll probably want to double up on our truck stops here, which sucks a little bit because they're going to just be kind of a blight on the landscape from the look. Oh, no. Don't do that with the creating new places. We want Industrial Park because Franklin Heights doesn't exist. Oh, the lag is real. Oh, the lag is real. Oh, I hate it. What road vehicle? There isn't a road vehicle there. Oh boy. Slight traffic jam here, I suppose. I completely did this to myself and I'm annoyed. So you can just... Too much lag, too much lag, too much lag. Freaking much lag. So the reason we're opening all these up is because we want to send them all back to the depot. And that will hopefully unstick this a little bit. And then once we've fixed the placement of all of those truck stops, then we can actually have nice things. At the very least, this guy can get out of the way. performance is bad. It's dying. It's dying a horrible death. Oh, my encoder is very unhappy right now. As is most of the rest of my computer. Oh, boy. Weirdly enough, I can still play this music just fine. It's a crappy tune. Alright. So that's done. So these can exist now. Well, almost. That one apparently can't. Road here, please. Thank you. Alright. Now they can all go to their stops, finally. Zoop. And this will actually be more room than they need, which means that there will be a little bit of spare space for some of them to deliver engineering supplies, if we can actually get a source for those that we can properly transfer down here. Either way, that should dramatically improve our metal production. I hope. Because it's only producing like, 7 tons last month. Only most of which was even transferred. Yeah, it's a little bit bad. So this still has bauxite coming to it in decent portion. It's got metal coming out in very small portion. No shock there, but the trucks are pretty well taking care of that, looks like. This is still staying at gung-ho production, which is exactly what we hoped for. Are you guys hearing that crackling? I'm not really... I can't really tell if it's just me. That's a lot of engineering supplies. We might actually have an ability to use those correctly. I mean, I'd sure like to be able to use that properly. These two don't apparently correspond to anything, so I'm going to replace them. Truck stops. Roly-poly truck stops. Might have been listening to Dr. Demento recently. Okay, so Twitchton Valley has realized that it doesn't exist and has gone away. That's good. What are you doing? Unloading fruit that you don't have. Probably it's waiting for itself to be timetabled properly. It's probably waiting for the timetable to reach its departure time. Alright, so before I forget to do it, let's go ahead and place down a sign right here. The Jeff Bridges. It's not Jeff Bridges, it's a pair of bridges both named Jeff. It's I'm sure you can understand the difference. It's perfectly clear. Okay, so let's get those engineering supplies headed back this way. Yeah, another flatbed. Why are there so many of these that are just sitting around doing nothing? And why did I clone this without actually making sure that it had orders? Yeah, those three all know where they're going. This one comes down here and then drops off up here. And it will full load on engineering supplies. Then we'll have those boats haul the engineering supplies back. We'll have, start with 4 of those and see how the line holds up. Meanwhile, the boats coming to Farmingdale docks. At this end, they will refit for engineering supplies. And at this end, they will refit for fruit. And that should actually pretty dramatically change what's happening with that. A busy little shipping lane here. Not nearly as busy as it should be, but you know, we'll pretend. What are these guys called? Oh, I don't have names. Okay. Got Bodie over here, though. Boxer. Boxer, Cinnabon, Bodie, and Steve. Alright, so metal is actually finding its way back over here, slowly, a little bit. These ones that are coming back... Oh, really? Are you not supposed to refit to engineering supplies? It's a shame you can't insist on them bringing something back. Boats are slow, boats are very, very slow. Slow boat. Rowboat, slow boat. What are these carrying? Yeah, the slower one is carrying fruit. Ah! So this one filled back up. Superb. So this now, most of these are headed to the other station, but it has actually noticed that it's allowed to bring stuff back along this shipping lane. Yeah, so it's starting to produce for Franklin, which is exactly what we want. And hopefully these boats can keep up with that, and hopefully these guys can eventually get enough of it up here to keep up. So there's just nowhere near enough of these on this line right now. So we'll deploy lots of them. That's obviously the only thing to do. And you know what we can do actually is make this considerably more efficient by changing the position of one of the hills. No, we don't want passenger trams right now. Not worrying about that. This is going to make all of them freak out because they're lost. Alright. Down. That will allow them to take a turn here instead of going all the way around that whole stupid business. Let's see if there's any other major spots like that along the way. I mean, that might be a problem. That might be a problem, but I choose not to care about it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly okay. There's a couple of weird little crisscrossed roads, but mostly it's okay. So it is producing. It's producing a little slower than I would have liked, of course, but it is definitely producing. And we've got quadruple production going here, so lots of engineering supplies are available. And these are producing acceptably. These guys are filling up as they are supposed to, and are increasing this thing's production. So yeah, it's a double. 84 crates within 3 months is basically our goal there. Franken, Jomothy, Cowcatcher 1, road vehicles. As long as their groups keep being profitable, I don't think we need to worry too much about it. The Seymour streetcars are badly down. Why is that? Pray tell. Is it that there are too many? Is it that Seymour is too small for this service? Let's add more stops. It's probably because this is really congested. So what we're going to do is add a little bit more for them to do. And a little bit more redundant track as well, just in case. So these towns, I turned the ratio way down, but they still really like their road construction. Ugh, good grief, excuse me. Alright, so that's a couple more stops for them to visit. Now let's tell them to actually do that. So they go currently from Seymour to Seymour Central to Seymour East. So then after this, we want, or before this, we want them to go to Seymour Heights. And before Seymour Central, we want them to take a visit to Seymour Woods. And also Seymour East, I think. So it's going to be a little weird. But I think that should get them a little bit more busy. So it should be Seymour Heights. Seymour East, Seymour Heights. Let's not do that, actually. So we'll pass through it one directionally. Unidirectionally, for being proper about it. Lisa Frank 5 is complaining about being bored. It's really odd. I wouldn't have thought that we'd have these problems with this setup. Since those were oversaturated, instead of letting them stay that way or reducing the service, we've actually increased the service a bit in the hopes that that will in turn buff up the profitability of each individual service, or each individual vehicle. Their maintenance costs seem to be getting a little high as well. So that's a bit concerning. I'm not sure what to do about that. Other than just switch over to a new model. This is not stepping up. Why is it not stepping up like it's supposed to? So those are timetabled, which should keep them roughly equal. Well, either way, we are producing massively more metal than we were before, which is kind of exactly the entire idea. So that's a good sign. Where's the train delivering the metal? Who's supposed to be delivering the metal? Oh yeah, we depoted that train because it wasn't doing anything. Which depot did we put it in? Crap. Is it living over here? Yeah, it is. Okay. So you can be alive again. The station isn't busy enough that it's going to be a problem, so you can continue doing your thing. This music. Oh my gosh. Alright, so which one of these is carrying metal? Are you carrying metal? Yeah, you are carrying metal. Bodie McBoatface carries metal. And therefore, Bodie McBoatface is getting a couple of clones. Boaties McBoatfaces are going to try and keep up with the new load. And this train is pretty much going to just be running back and forth constantly until that gets dealt with. Let's see, we got goods, we got manufacturing supplies. Those are coming out at a pretty good rate, so I don't think we have to worry about that until it steps up production. The boats are so slow. Oh my gosh, the boats are so slow. Alright, how quickly is it producing for Franklin? That's the question. Is it producing fast enough that the boats can roughly fully load? 47 crates. No, they're not even close. Otherwise, they would be taking the return trip empty, though, so this is still a good thing. Down here, the engineering supplies are having a hard time reaching their destination. So, more trucks. Are these the ones that are carrying... No, they're carrying scrap metal. Why are these all waiting? Are they timetabled or something? Departures. Delayed. Yeah, I'll say delayed. For the ones that can, at least, let's make sure that there's a way for them to path out. Oh, that's not gonna work, is it? Well... Road vehicle in the way. Boy, isn't that just the story of our lives today? Come on then, move out of the way so that I can build the freaking road. But we'll let these guys do their jobs. If you wouldn't mind, if it's not too much to ask. The really annoying thing is that you can actually just tell them to turn around and they'll unstick themselves no problem. but it actually takes all of that effort to do it. That's going to be one way, so they will hopefully realize they can take that exit. Use that as a way of getting out of here properly. And have that in turn reduce traffic some. GMC new look. Gung Ho production, 278 tons of scrap metal on the way. Assuming that we can keep that going, we'll actually need like really a lot more trucks picking it up. Even though there are currently plenty of trucks to cause serious problems if they all back up. If they don't all back up, then we need a lot of them. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. With my painfully stretched out encoder. You know, these road vehicles are probably not profitable because they don't ever leave the station. $134 tons still waiting after all that. Alright, let's get some of these guys into a group. The most recent ones are for the iron ore mines. So, or not iron ore, scrap metal. That's a very large, it's a very, very large group. Add all shared vehicles. So that's 35 vehicles right there. What about these guys? These are engineering supplies for Franklin. Let's get this a little bit bigger so that we can actually see what we're doing. Shared. That's a lot. Let's see. Ungrouped. What else? What else? We need to deal with all of these fruit guys. What are you doing? Engineering supplies. And why aren't you in the other group? We're getting them from the docks. So are the others. Do you not have shared orders with them? You don't. Well, isn't that just a kick in the head? And these are for, yeah, these are for Franklin from the docks. These ones are Twitchton to Twitchton Tanner Road. What? Tanner Road, where's... Twitchton Port, Twitchton Industrial Park. This is a mess. Pardon the mess. Oh. Well, that's the problem. These are a lie. That's the issue. Why are they so clumped up? Are they not timetabled? No, they're not. Okay, well. Oh, we won't do that then. We won't worry about it. This is actually going to need to be renamed. Oops, no. Renamed. Engineering supplies. Right. That's better, I think. pin that so we can keep this at least kind of sane. Franklin Engineering Supplies. I can't talk and type at the same time, in case that wasn't obvious. Scrap metal, and then this one goes to the bauxite delivery. This gets all of its shared vehicles added. And coincidentally, let's go back over there because that's what we're paying attention to right now. Ungrouped. Back to ungrouped again. These ones are all fruit. Franklin fruits. And you get all shared vehicles. Trying to at least pretend to be organized this time. And those guys, I think I'm going to leave how they are because I have literally no idea how I want them sorted out. Wow. This scrap metal facility is actually, this junkyard is actually managing to keep up with all the trucks running through here all the time. That's kind of legit. And there's a gas station just okay, there's a gas station here now. I don't know why. Looks like we're keeping up with the engineering supplies for right now. Let's check back on the other end. This is still producing a lot, but we're keeping up with the demand. Okay, we are actually keeping up now. You're carrying what? Manufacturing supplies. Where was that monster traffic jam that we saw going by earlier? What happened to it? Oh, they all changed color. Oh, crap. Wait. I understand the problem. Oh, no, they're all pink. They're all pink. Okay, now traffic jam analysis. Where is the actual traffic jam that I was seeing earlier? Does it exist? Am I going crazy? Al Franken is stuck. Crap. Right, you know what we're gonna do is pretend for a second that there's a passing track inside of this junction. No, that will not work. And is illogical to me. We're gonna do that instead. And that was a mistake. Hang on. That. And then we're gonna double track this after all. Alright, come on. Tim Allen and Al Franken are stuck. Boop. Alright, new road bridge. Goes one tile further. It's gonna be fancy because it goes over the railway, and that's what we really care about here. We're gonna connect it to here. That's not right at all. And we want to make sure to put a one-way path signal here. And convert this to a one-way now. Because with the way that we have this set up now, we can use one-ways on this side only. sure that actually works before I stop paying attention to this area. Okay, looks functional at least. It's a little goofy, but that's because this site isn't double tracked, even though it probably really needs it. Can we make that work? Can we make that happen? Yes, we can. Let's do that. And we don't need that, and we don't need that. So this can only go that way or that way, that's correct. This can only go that way or that way, which is also correct. This can go that way or that way, which is also correct. So that means that one of these can go no, I can't. What? No, this is already right. Never mind. That's fine. Everything's great. I think that's the places where we want trains to stop before this junction. I think that's all taken care of now. We could put another signal here, but I don't want trains getting stuck in the junction. Same deal over here. We just don't want trains getting stuck inside the junction, even though it would be more convenient to have it a different way. Roads now. We gotta put those bridges back in place. Whoops. It's going to do a different kind. Let's do a different kind, actually. That kind. There we go. There we go. 4 kinds of bridges, all in a row. Gorgeous. Not actually, but we'll pretend. Looks like I'm dropping frames a little bit again. I do apologize. It should theoretically not be doing that anymore. It looks like it's doing a little bit better for itself at least. Still not great, but better. Was there a signal underneath that bridge? Yeah, there was. Okay. Alrighty. So this is in good shape now. That's a lot. Huh. So we probably want to do something with these crates that isn't just having them sit there. Manufacturing supplies can go to the sugar refinery. I mean, that is kind of just about it. Well, how's this doing? It takes farm supplies, which we don't really have any. Yeah, I mean, these are keeping up with it just fine. It's making like tiny amounts of food. Lots of not strictly profitable vehicles over here. I'm not surprised to see that, since most of them are just waiting around all day anyway. But the idea is that once we can get farm supplies down here, then all of these will suddenly kick into action, because, you know, we'll have something for them to do. I'm wondering what the best way to handle all of this is. I don't... It's just kind of made a mess of itself. Like, this guy has just decided not to pull forward in his stall. And now there's a massive traffic jam. As soon as he scooted just a little ways out of the way, it was like, oh, well, now we're all going to our own spots. Bye. Alright, how are we doing on fruit? Is that... yeah, that's getting picked up reasonably well. We really need to get a farm supplies loop coming back the other direction. That would really help, I think. Lockheed Plains. I don't want to get into airplanes until I'm ready to like start connecting over really long distances, because as soon as that happens, we're pretty much going to have like just massive city growth on either end of the map, which is not what I want. I don't want to. I don't want to be in a position of just having way too much going on at either end. What are you doing? You're getting stuff from here and taking it to there. That's not what I want. What are you doing? Same thing. What are you doing? Okay, we'll take your full load off and then have you timetabled, so that there's a regular service here instead of just that sporadic now and then business. We want to keep this going at about the same rate. Yeah, because it's getting... I think this is fine. Because it's keeping it pumped full of goods. This is... I mean, that looks like it's had production stepped up for sure. I don't know if it actually has, but it looks like it. This... whoa! Buddy, you need some more carriages. Jimothy, my man. Wow. So once that delivers its current load, then I will have it flip back around and head to the depot. So we can add more carriages to it. Zoom. Okay. Now what does it have on it? It has 50-foot flat cars. Cargo capacity metal. We'll have a few more carriages. That should help it get a little bit more caught up with that demand, because that's quite a bit much. It's got to wait for its way in. That's fine. Perfect. Is there a signal under there? No, there is. That shouldn't be there. That's gonna, sooner or later, that's going to cause us a major traffic jam. So let's get rid of that. There can be a signal here because that's waiting to get out of this waiting track. Same deal with that. I don't know that we want a signal here. After all. Yeah, we want these trains to be able to path all the way in and out. We do, however, want to put a signal here on the outside of it, so the trains can reserve their way in and out of that section. I'll put it there instead, actually. And wipe that out. And then we don't need any signals coming out this way because that's already all sorted out. Alright, and this newly longer fellow, Jimothy, instantly filled up. Oh, dang. Yeah, so that's a lot of metal, man. That is a lot of metal. There's a lot of metal. Alright. How are we doing our sorted services? Bauxite trains, still unprofitable because they're not, like, the overall journey is very slow because of these boats. Oh, speaking of which, is this backed up? Not very. Is this backed up? Not at all. Okay, so that's all good. Mostly we just need to get metal out of here more effectively. Let's see, so these ones, the Mill Creek Road vehicles, have the same problem as the ones from wherever did. These are amazingly profitable for where they are and what they're doing, so wow. These, I mean, no surprise, these are not doing great. I kind of would rather pay for that service to continue just because I don't want to manage them. Okay, what replacements are waiting that we don't need anymore? That can go, and that has gone quite some time ago. Oops. Let's see, and then this one has another replacement still waiting. 2-horse passenger carriages that don't exist. Alright, so that's all the auto replaces fixed. These ones are probably realistically just never going to profit because they're only taking cargo over a couple of tiles worth of distance. These are also probably not going to profit until we massively buff those farms up. But these Mill Creek's road vehicles, that we can change. These ones, the running costs are getting a little out of hand, I think. But I think also part of that is because last year they got stuck really badly and didn't do anything for like 6 months. We'll let Jimothy sort himself out over the following year because he's had some changes. Is he full? Yeah, he's full. Huh. Wonder why it didn't look full. Oh, because the coils are supposed to be laying down. I see. Wow, that's a lot of money for just one train. Wow. I'm proud of you. I'm proud. And overall, massive profits there. Pretty darn good profits here. These ones we're going to figure out because I think this is a matter of the stations being positioned badly. No. These ones actually are doing their jobs. Huh. Part of it is because this station is artificially made closer than it actually is. So that's not great. So let's decommission these. That can go finally. So Mill Creek Woods now thinks it's over here instead of over here, which means that this one will get more profitable and also journeys between them will get noticeably more profitable as well. So that's a good start. Let's move the main Mill Creek station to like hereabouts, and then move Old Town Hall way out into the boonies to improve the amount of money that we're making on that. Okay, that's gonna probably be our best entry point for that. Redundancy as always, just a bit. And then we'll move Old Town Hall. Or maybe no. Maybe we want to leave Old Town Hall where it is and actually move the original Mill Creek station. That's probably going to be better. We want something that can be reached from a few different positions and directions, so we'll make that the new Mill Creek Central Station. No junctions on through stops. And then we'll also make a little bit more of a roundabout path there. And the reason for that is that when they come through here, they're going to need to be able to get to it from a couple of different directions in order not to get clogged up. So then we'll remove the original station over here, confuse at least one of them terribly, and now they should start making a little bit more money from those trips. Over here, we want to take advantage of this, but I'm not exactly sure how best to do that. You can get the engineering supplies up here by rail, but that would require the use of the passenger main line to do it, and I'm not wild about clogging it up any more than it already is. So until we figure out our performance issue with that, I think we're going to need to kind of lay off and not use this, unless we want to run a separate rail line, and I think that's probably not a good idea. This is still served, which is, I mean, thank goodness for that, because that's the only real industry over here. Stuff still seems to be passing through here pretty smoothly, which, now that I think about it, sounds a little bit euphemistic, but it's not what I meant. These might be losing their production over time. We just need to make more farm supplies, really. And more chemicals probably would not hurt either. Building materials, gasoline, food. So we just need to diversify what's coming into this spot here. What is this? This is another port, so they make engineering supplies, which, yeah, we're covered for that for right now. Clay pit. Oh. Clay, where does clay end up? Paper mill, cement plant, brickworks. So actually, so we could start taking the clay from the clay pit up to this paper mill over here. No, not there. This paper mill. We need to also get paper headed over there, or wood, rather, which we have a sawmill, but oh no, that makes lumber. That goes to the furniture factory. That's why I got confused. All right, so let's not touch the clay pit for now. We'll leave that be. Is that another furniture factory? And that's our stockyard. Which maybe we want to get manufacturing supplies coming down here. Do we have those flowing through our network properly? Yeah, we do. So a goods train coming through here could get some of these manufacturing supplies and bring them back the other way. So that's a possibility. I don't know if we want to do that, but it's a possibility. That would definitely help if we could get some manufacturing going on over here. So I mean, this is accomplishing nothing. Yeah, I mean, we're barely even making use of this. And we've got a hotel, we've also got a brewery here, we've got a fishing harbor, we've got a dairy farm, some oil wells, another dairy farm, so we could connect those if we wanted to do more with livestock and milk. Where does milk end up going? Oh, there's a third one up here. Right there. That's peculiar. Dairy. Yeah, you think? And dairy makes food. Okay, that's fair. Dairy. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, the closest one's in Waterford. I don't really want to get too far into that. Goodness me, I feel like the day length is not set long enough right now. Probably never was, honestly. We've had barely any time to play with any given new vehicle. I mean, obviously the problem with that is that, you know, you get stuff like this that just never changes, and is never particularly profitable in that case. But it's something to look at, changing the day length. And this is actually all keeping up with itself pretty nicely. Let's depot articulated flatbeds. That sounds really cool, actually. Can't make road vehicle turnaround. Alright. Fine. Let is lot. Because right now we're using nowhere near this station's capacity. This one can turn around though. Same deal with these guys up here. So like this one, and these two can all go to the depot. And we should pretty much have plenty of capacity left on that line. Yeah, so we'll round down on the ones that we're removing for now. Alright. So that should at least save some money on these, because they're not really doing much of anything. Okay, this is slowed down, but it's still on gung-ho. Or slowed down relative to the amount of trucks available. Okay. Let's see how this behaves over a little bit of time. Oh, so they can't find a path messages. It looks like those are when they're waiting outside of a depot that isn't freeing up properly. So that's not something I can do a whole ton about, unfortunately. It's just gonna have to live. We're just gonna have to live with that, at least for the moment, until we rejig the line again. Something we can do eventually. So right now. So we've still got a fair amount of stuff passing through here at any given time, which is excellent. We do need, from the look of it, some more stops here. Because right now this isn't working. This isn't doing its job. Nope, not streetcars, roads. We'll just max that out for now. We don't need it, but someday, eventually, maybe. that might become something that we need to expand on a little bit. And so we will not have to fuss with it, it'll just be ready. Or at least that's the hope. 20 tons of metal. 76, wait, what? What did you just drop off? Bauxite. Oh, so that just got slurped straight into the aluminum plant. That was weird. I'm not complaining, but it was weird. Oh crap, I depoted this. No, I didn't. What? Where is he? Oh, there he is. Wow, this production is actually keeping up remarkably well with the train. Would have expected that it would have pulled this down by now. A little bit. So chemicals. Bauxite has just been taken away, chemicals have just been left behind. And another metal pickup is here. How much can you carry total? 298. Wow, that's not a lot compared to this build-up that we've got. You can see all the rolls of steel over here. Chemical facilities, we've got the steel facilities. That's a mineral drop-off over there. It all looks very cool, but unfortunately it's not doing us a whole huge ton of good, given just how crazy much stuff there is. So since we don't have rail capacity for this, we're actually going to start cloning some of these guys and saturate that side of this a little bit better. Hopefully that'll keep things from getting as clogged. It's going to be completely nickel and diming, but we'll see what we can do. This is literally just to bootstrap a slightly better service. Okay, so we're keeping up with the bauxite production. Nothing is waiting, so we're going to go with yes. And there's only a couple of trucks unused, so we're actually, like, this is just about right, actually. Although that's a little bit annoying. Where's the other train? On its way. Okay, so this is functional, at least. It's a little bit crude. Kind of the name of the game here. Crude but functional. We do need more road stops here. We need this to be Twitchton Tanner Road. We need one over there. Oh, Twitchton Heights is not supposed to exist. Boink. Okay. Alright, so that might just make horrible traffic jams, but it also might make things actually work. We'll see. Kind of leaning towards horrible traffic jams for now. Man, yeah, those have to go. There's no way that's gonna work. And it's just gonna stay there like that until that particular vehicle just changes its mind about where it wants to be. Crap. That's not ideal. Well, let's see if we can get these guys to not be in the way quite so much. Vroom vroom. I'm going to pause it so that I can remove that station without anybody zipping in there. Oh my gosh. What have I done to myself? This is not the right situation to use that type of stop, I think. These are all going to be drive-in stations. They're not going to be the other kind. Truck in the way. Truck in the way. Yeah, again with this. Come on, just assume that I want the one that it's already next to. Ah! Twitchton Tanner Road. I'll just buy that. As soon as those guys get off of those tiles, we should be fine. Should be able to proceed without any issues. Okay. Okay. Now we can get rid of that. Undoing my mistakes, just a little bit at a time. Rid of that. Place that. Wait until they all clear out. Maybe. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Why? Why have I done this to myself? They all think that's the closest tile, so that's the only one they want to use. Ugh. I wonder why they don't just reserve the best one to get to. Why they do it this way instead. So, what we're gonna do, I think, is freeze a couple of these guys. Let the ones in front of them clear out. Well, maybe. Eeps. Okay. Now, finally, that can go away. And then I think that'll undo the traffic jam. Please undo the traffic jam. Oh, they're all so slow. Okay, but it is working right now. Let is lot. Let got lot. Again. Again. Wow, thousands of dollars profit by trucks? That's pretty impressive, if that's even vaguely correct. So we can get articulated buses now, it looks like. Maybe. They're all trying desperately to get back on schedule with one another. And there's that one guy who's just super slow. Driving super slow. Honestly, he's probably broken down, but I don't care. I'm gonna make fun of it anyway. So our stream is just about over. I'll give it a quick spot check to make sure I didn't break anything else, but once I've dealt with that, I think perhaps that we might be in a good place to stop for the night. another 20 trucks on this route. Probably going to regret that later, but we'll see. Maybe that'll finally get this down to a reasonable amount. At the moment we're in sort of a watch it go mode. So we'll see what happens as far as getting this to properly cooperate. We've got a lot of trucks now augmenting that rail service coming back and forth from the industrial park over here, the workshop. That's Jimothy making that run. Unfortunately, Jimothy's capacity is only 298 tons, and there isn't really capacity on this railway right now for more Jimothys. Like maybe one, but this station is a little bit on the fragile side as far as like preloading, because the other end of it is single tracked, and there's another two different services that stop in here. So if one of them were to get stuck, that would be a real problem. So we can afford a maximum of 2 Jimothys on the line, which I'm going to create one. Jimothy 2. That should help keep this in check a little bit better, and I think these trucks are also helping overall. It is going down now, a little bit at a time. This has now started to pile up on this end a little bit, which is fantastic, but also hard to keep up with sometimes. These trucks are cohabitating their body a little bit, and that's creepy and weird. Stop doing that, trucks. You are not supposed to do that. Also, what's happening here? Why are they all jammed up like this? Oh, somebody broke down, that's why. And if there is anybody on here who knows OpenTTD, I know this is a terrible design. Don't worry, I understand the mistakes I'm making. I am not playing this to be good at the game by any stretch. Oh wow, the engineering supplies are starting to get out of hand here. Where's the guys that... Okay, here's one. You're carrying engineering, right? Yeah, there you are. I'll have another 4 of them. I probably want to change some of the color schemes on these, but we'll wait for tomorrow to do that since we're just getting done with the stream now. Let's see, is that handled? Yeah, that's handled. We're doing a lot more stuff with trucks than I really expected when I started in on this. So I thought, you know, trucks are fine, but do we really need to use them? We can just have trains. Trains do everything trucks do, right? And then it turns out that no, you actually do kind of want trucks for some stuff. Mostly where trains are inconvenient for whatever reason. Yeah, this is all just outgoing. Trucks are only doing drop-offs at the moment, I think. Yeah, it's looking good. And the metal situation is finally under control, so some of these guys can... Wow! Some of these guys can finally get depoted. Depot for all of you. What the heck? No one should be waiting at this stop. If they're waiting, then I've done something wrong. Which is, to be honest, very likely anyway. No, 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 go away. What you're selling, I ain't buying. I want it very badly, but I cannot do that right now. Alright, let's see if these guys keep building up or if they've depoted themselves properly and in sufficient number that I won't have those massive jam-ups anymore. Nope, massive jam-up almost instantly. Depot, 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 depot. There were like 2 more at the back. 1 more at the back. What is this building? It's a really big petrol station. Weird little ant swarm thing going on here. Shoo. Okay, so looks okay. Looks like it's not going to be a huge problem. Metal situation's under control. Jimothy's 1 and 2 are handling it as they should. Okay, here comes another load, which just about fills up one of the Jimothys. Trucks cleared out before Jimothy 2 gets back. Okay. So I think we're actually in good shape. I think this looks okay. Let's check the cargo distribution graphs and see if there's anything we need to know about on there. It's too far away for the graphs to display. No, it's not. I'm just not displaying them. Oh my gosh! Well, the passenger line is considerably more overtaxed than I understood. Holy crap. Is it passengers or is it mail? Because the passengers are doing okay. Where's mail? No, it's the mail that's doing okay. It's the passengers that are a problem. Which, yeah, no shock. Well, that's something that we'll need to figure out next time. I don't have the time to figure that out right now. Probably will realistically just want to redo the Lisa Franks to be a little bit faster, a little bit longer. Do something about this constant jam up at Addison. It looks like the problem is pretty consistently at the Addison station, not really anywhere else. I would have thought there would be issues at McLean, just because of this junction here. It's very interfering. And the mainline service runs through Seymour, which really it shouldn't. At least not both directions. Yeah, that's something to think about later, I think. In the meantime, I think we're done for the day. I don't think there's a lot else we can do right now. So with that in mind, and remembering also that we stream weeknights at 7 p.m. Mountain Time until roughly 10, I bid you all farewell for the evening, and have a lovely night.